Hey there, Seb Frey, the Realtor here. Thank you for joining me on the Seacliff Neighborhood Real Estate Tour. So Seacliff is a neighborhood in Aptos, California, and honestly, it's an area that is very near and dear to my heart. I lived for many years in Seacliff when I was younger. So we're going to start off our tour here at the Seacliff Plaza, and right up here, dead ahead, the Snow White Drive-In, and you know, my kids think that the Snow White Drive-In makes the best burger in Santa Cruz. Now, I don't know about that, but certainly I have enjoyed many a burger at the Snow White Drive-In. And there's the Seacliff Plaza store, liquor store and bait store, mostly a liquor store. But, okay, so now we're coming on down to the actual main attraction here in Seacliff, and that would be Seacliff State Beach. Here we go, Seacliff State Beach. It's a state park. California State Park, and it's the main attraction of the area. You know, Santa Cruz County has many miles of beaches, and a lot of them are very broad, long, sandy beaches, and Seacliff State Beach is just a big chunk of that. So we're going to drive through the gate here, and we're going to wave hello to the gate attendant, the ranger there on the left, and just sort of sail right on into the parking lot here. So right now I'm going to be riding along the cliff, right? So this is the Seacliff. I guess that's why they call it Seacliff. But there's cliffs in, you know, large parts of Santa Cruz County. You know, East Cliff Drive, West Cliff Drive, lots of cliffs in Santa Cruz. So now we're going to head on back out of the parking lot. There's also a lower parking lot, but there's more parking up above, and you can go into the park for free on foot, but if you want to park your car in the state parking lot, it's going to cost you $10, unless of course you have a Poppy Pass. And if you did live in Santa Cruz County anywhere, you would be well served to have a Poppy Pass. They are like $120 a year, I think, or maybe $150, I forget, and you can park in all of the state park parking lots for 1 year. Using that Poppy Pass, so we definitely get our money's worth for that. So right across the street here is Mary Ann's Ice Cream. I'm driving into the Mary Ann's Ice Cream lot right here. Mary Ann's Ice Cream, very famous. You can buy it all over Northern California, Silicon Valley. It got its start in Santa Cruz County, in the city of Santa Cruz on Ocean Street, and they still do have that original location. But the second location of Mary Ann's is right here in Seacliff, above Seacliff State Beach. So here we go. You know, Seacliff is kind of divided into two sections. There's a section divided by State Park Drive, essentially. So right now I'm going off of State Park Drive on Center Street, where we have Manuel's Mexican restaurant on the right, very famous. The Med, famous dive bar. Pizza One. There's a taqueria there. There's a bunch of shops right there in Seacliff Village, as it were. But I'm headed now into the more expensive part of Seacliff. So it's more expensive because in this part of Seacliff, the homes tend to be on larger lots. And because they are on larger lots, the homes themselves tend to be bigger. And also, they tend to be newer. So a lot of these houses here were built in the 1960s and 1970s. And in the other part of Seacliff, the part where I used to live, they were oftentimes built in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s. But they are usually on smaller lots, and therefore they are smaller houses. Now this part right here, we're driving right along the cliff, and to the right, that grassy area, you can see that is part of Seacliff State Beach Park as well, and you can go walking your dogs there. And on the left, these are some of the most expensive homes on Seacliff because they have wonderful ocean views. You know, these houses will be, you know, $3 million plus, a lot of them. Not that they turn over very often, but yeah, they're several $1 million a piece, generally speaking. So now we're going into the neighborhood here, and as you can see, the street is pretty wide, right? Nice and wide, a lot wider than in the other section of Seacliff, but there's still no sidewalks. You know, this is unincorporated Santa Cruz County, and so they don't have a lot of those niceties like sidewalks in Seacliff. And you'll also notice that we don't have a lot of traffic. You know, Seacliff is a pretty quiet place. It's a great place, again, to go running or walking the dog, or for a nice leisurely e-bike ride in the afternoon. And as you can see, a lot of these houses, I mean, these are not monster homes, but, remember what these homes look like when we get to the other part of Seacliff, and you will see that, these homes are, generally speaking, a lot larger than we're going to see in that older section of Seacliff. But we're going to go and see a house right now here in this newer section of Seacliff that is not actually that big. It's a single-story home, not especially large. So I think it's right here. Yeah, we're going to go check it out. Zip, zip. Here we go. Look at this. So we got 109 Santa Clara Avenue, sold for $1.11 million in August of this year. 877 square foot house, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, sold for $1,266 a square foot. It's on the market for 12 days. Built in 1962 and a 4,000 square foot lot. Look at that bathroom. But look at that nice big lot, So again, this is actually a smaller lot for this side of Seacliff. But it does have a nice big size backyard, and people really appreciate that because it's indoor-outdoor living. That's what it's all about here in Santa Cruz County, no question about it. All right, so that is the only property that we have on our tour here on this side of State Park Drive. So we're just going to take a little stroll here through Seacliff before we head on down to the other side of State Park Drive, the older side. I don't really know if they actually have a name. I mean, like, one side is more north and west, and the other one is more south and east. But so far as I know, there's no names for the two halves. And actually, I think that the older side is quite a bit bigger in terms of number of houses anyway, maybe geographically too, than this side here, which is the newer side. But yeah, no, it's all Seacliff, but they're definitely sort of distinct styles, I guess, One's a lot more beach cottagey, I guess. Yeah, the old side is maybe a lot more beach cottagey, and the new side is much more year-round living. Although, even in the old side, there's basically no more, beach cottages per se. I mean, there's a few, obviously, but most homes there are year-round. So, when I lived there, I lived in Seacliff. See here, moved in 1989, in the beginning of 1989. So I was there for the Loma Prieta earthquake. That's where I was. At the time, all up and down the street where I lived on, there were vacation rentals. I mean, it was like every other home had a little sign on it for a vacation rental. In the wintertime, man, the neighborhood just got real quiet. There was almost nobody really living there. I mean, there were definitely people living there, but it was like maybe a third of the houses, had people in them, something like that. Or so it seemed. I mean, like, it was very, very quiet. And it's still quiet now, even though it's occupied all the time. Because, let's face it, there's not a bunch of rowdy kids moving here. I mean, I was a rowdy kid when I lived there. But, there's not a lot of rowdy kids living here in Aptos. Aptos is definitely, skews towards an older demographic these days. Just because, younger people can't really afford to live here. A lot of people raised their families here in the 60s and 70s and 80s to some degree, and then they stayed around, and as these properties are turning over, they've gotten to the point where they're so expensive that, a lot of younger families just can't afford to move in there. Or, if they could afford to move in there, just the houses, especially in the older part of Seacliff, they're just too small. If you have like 2 or 3 kids, who wants to live in 1,000 square feet? If you have 2 or 3 kids, not that many people these days are looking for more space. All right, so here we go back into the heart of the village. The beach is on the left, and State Park Drive is right here with the stop sign. As we cross State Park Drive, we are going to go into this older section of Seacliff. So here we go. There goes Seacliff Plaza on the right. And now we're going to take a jog down Coates Drive. Yes, Coates Drive. And this is the street where I used to live. I spent many, many, many days walking up and down this street, going to the liquor store and back, frankly, to keep the party rolling. And so these houses on the left, these ones are on the bluff. And the house that I had was on the bluff. And the ones on the right, so a lot of these ones on the right, they are 2-story homes, so they can look over the one-story homes on the bluff side. Not every home is one-story. As you can see, there's a two-story right there, but most of them are single-story on the bluff. You know, I'd heard a rumor there was some kind of restriction against building two-story houses right there, but I never saw that in the prelim on the house that we lived in. And the house that we lived in was my grandfather's house. My grandfather built that house himself over the course of 3 years on the weekends, and I suspect he's not the only one in the neighborhood who did that. And then it was inherited by my mother and her two brothers, and then my brother and my sister. We bought out our relatives, and we owned the house for not sure how long, close to 10 years, something like that, before we eventually did sell. And here it is. This was the old family homestead, 353 Coates Drive right there on the left, that blue house. And then right next to it, this house right here on the left is a brand new house. There was an old house there that got demolished, and they built a brand new house in its place. It had some severe erosion issues. The deck was the concrete patio was severely undermined, and they spent years and years and many hundreds of thousands of dollars battling that. I guess they got it solved well enough to build a whole new house. And that's the thing about living on the bluff, and that's kind of one of the reasons why we sold. We're like, this is really risky, having so much money tied up in this one little house on the bluff. What if it were to fall away? And actually, we did have a sinkhole open up in the driveway, and that's kind of one of the things that really got us thinking, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't hold on to this. And I'm told that actually here in Seacliff that sinkholes are not that uncommon because the soil is made out of sandstone. It's very sandy soil, and I guess sinkholes form pretty easily. Yeah, and actually it swallowed my roommate's car. I was at work, and my roommate called me up and said, dude, a hole just opened up in the driveway and swallowed my car. And so I had to rush right home. Took the day off and had to deal with that, so that wasn't a lot of fun, but get the sinkhole filled in. All right, here we go. Now, as you can see, we're driving on the street here, and as you can see, well, these houses actually, some of these houses are larger, but a lot of the ones like on the left, you know, these are smaller houses. So, you know, some of these houses obviously were never houses before. They were just bare lots, and they did build some bigger houses. But most of these houses here, they tend to have been smaller houses, beach cottages originally. You know, I think that house I showed you, my former house, you know, it was on a, I think it was a 3,000 square foot lot, maybe 2,900, something like that. And the lot, I believe they paid $3,000 for it, like in 1948, something like that. So here we go. We're going up Mar Vista Drive, by the way. Mar Vista Drive used to go onto the other side of the freeway, but then the freeway came along and cut it in half. And so then there's the beach side and the inland side, and there's Mar Vista Elementary School, which is kind of famous now. And then there's the Mar Vista neighborhood on Nextdoor, that social media site, nextdoor.com. I actually started the Mar Vista neighborhood group myself. I was one of the first users on Nextdoor. Around here anyway, and I don't actually use Nextdoor really very much. I mean, I have the account. I'm actually the neighborhood lead, but I never go there because there's just a lot of negativity. Okay, well, here goes our first site here, and I pulled up. They were working on that house because look at this house. This house was in extreme distress. This is 516 Cedar Street, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, sold for $800,000. And as you can see, you know, it's great location, but you know, definitely a major fixer-upper, and that's why it sold for only $800,000, and it's like a 4,200 square foot lot, something like that. So I don't think they did tear it down. It doesn't look like it was torn down because it was just sold so recently, but it looks like they're doing a major renovation on it. So, okay, here we go, continuing on. Now you'll notice that these streets, they're not quite so broad as they were in that newer section of Seacliff, right? Definitely a little tighter because this is an older subdivision. And again, it's not a tract home subdivision. They literally just divided it up and sold lots. And that's how my grandfather and grandmother ended up buying that property, was because it was sold up into lots. You know, they told me that, hey, you know, like we used to go down to the beach on the weekends. We would drive down from the Bay Area, come down to Aptos, come down to Seacliff, and they said, gee, wouldn't it be nice to have a house up there? And so then one day after they were finished with their revelry on the beach, they went and drove up there, and they found out that all these lots were staked out. and there was a realtor's phone number and a sign saying, hey, you know, if you're interested, call me. And so they did end up calling, and they got on a list, and then a few months later, I'm told, they were called up and they said, hey, these lots are now ready for sale. You want to buy one? And they did, and the rest is history. And that's how I became tied to Seacliff, as it were. So, okay, well, continuing on with our tour here. Let's see here. You can see again, you know, like, look how many these houses are really just single-level houses, right? There's not a lot of I mean, there goes one on the left, really, but the majority are single-story houses here. So again, smaller homes, smaller lots. Now, I believe this is Poplar Street I'm cruising down, and on the left is the railroad tracks are lined by eucalyptus trees, and there's no train running on the railroad tracks. There's a big kerfuffle in Santa Cruz County about what's going to happen to the train tracks. There was a ballot measure to put a trail on the train tracks, and it failed spectacularly. It went down in a ball of fire. I think it was like 3-1 against trail only, but unfortunately there's just no money for a train, so it looks like it's just going to lay fallow for another few decades. And so I think people here in Seacliff don't have much to worry about in terms of any trains coming down the track anytime soon, but unfortunately they also won't have the benefit of having a nice wide trail, which they could then very easily hop on their bicycles and go down to Capitola, Live Oak, you know, the west side of Santa Cruz, and then also over to Rio Del Mar and La Selva Beach, and ultimately down to down to Watsonville or up to Davenport. Actually, I mean, it's a 32-mile train corridor, really, so it would be fantastic if it were actually a trail, but it looks like nothing will be happening on that corridor for, if I had to guess, probably not even really in my lifetime. I don't know, could be wrong about that, I hope I am, but I just don't see that train ever happening. All right, so here we go, and I think we have one more property to show you here, and now we are back on Mar Vista Drive, just crossed over those fallow train tracks again, and we're going to go up Mar Vista Drive. So now I'm headed towards the freeway on Mar Vista Drive, and at the end of Mar Vista Drive here, there's a frontage road, and right at the frontage road there's a nice condo complex. And those condos, just the name escapes me right now. I've shown a whole bunch of them over the years, but those are really nice condos, and probably some of the best value in Aptos, because you can live, you know, what is a walking distance to the beach from those condos, and I think, or maybe they're townhouses, because the HOA is like, I think, less than $200 a month over there. So I'm jamming a little fast here. You know, I like to keep these tours going to about 7, 8, 9 miles an hour, but on this one I have, oh, there's a trailer park, Blue Pacific, I believe that's Blue Pacific mobile home park right there. So yeah, I'm going about 15, 16 miles an hour down here. Oh, and there's the condo complex right there on the right. To take you to the third sale here, and this is a third sale which I showed this house. I showed it to some buyers, and they didn't actually like it because of the way the door faced. It was not an auspicious way for the door to face, and so they said, you know what, we're gonna have to take a pass on that. Look at that, that's like a 4-plex on the left. It might be a 6-plex or an 8-plex, I'm not really sure what it is. You know, most homes here are single family, but there's a sprinkling of multifamily, and of course, you know, that trailer park and you know, that condo project. But generally speaking, it's heavily dominated by single-family homes here in Seacliff. So here we go, coming up here, not right on the corner, but to the left of the one on the corner. This is I thought this was a fabulous house. I mean, a great opportunity for somebody. I really liked it quite a bit, and I guess it shows you what my tastes are, like what I look for in a house. So here we go. Check this one out. This is 604 Ord Street, sold for $1,155,000, 998 square foot home. That's $1,157 a square foot. It was on the market for 14 days. Built in 1955, and gee, it sure, you know, proudly sports that 1955 look. Not a lot of changes, but look, it has a 7,449 square foot lot. Quite a large lot, really nice. It had like a very nice garden shed, which was pretty substantial and could be turned into, I think, an office or something like that. And then it had like a screened-in kind of a porch, like I guess they called it like an Italian kitchen, sort of like an outside kitchen for when it gets hot. Although of course it never really gets hot here in Aptos per se. But it was just like a little additional, maybe 150 square feet that they had sort of like, I'm sure without a permit, sort of enclosed, but just to give it a little bit more space, maybe to hang out on warmer evenings, although there are just so few warm evenings around. Although today was October 18th. Now normally here in Santa Cruz, the weather in October is like the best time for weather, but this year, October has been miserable. It's been so foggy and cold. Really, I've never seen anything like it in all the 28 years or whatever it is that I've lived here. But today, October 18th, finally the sun came out, and it's a little warm today, man. It could be like pushing 80 degrees, feels like anyway. A lovely day for an e-bike ride, certainly. Not a wisp of fog anywhere, so that's why I took a little chance just to go out for a ride and do one of these neighborhood tours here in Seacliff. And I really do hope you have enjoyed this neighborhood ride. And that's it. Thank you so very much for watching. I appreciate it. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the flip side.